All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Northern Now, the digital event series for alumni and friends presented by NMU Alumni Relations. My name is Kylie Bunting. I am the Director of Alumni and Foundation Communications here at NMU, and I'm so glad that you have joined us this evening for tonight's special 125th anniversary installment, Tessman Talks NMU History. We're excited for you to have the opportunity to hear from President Tessman and our panelists. And first, I just want to go over a couple of logistics here. While we're unable to see and hear you in this webinar format, we certainly want to hear from you. We'll be monitoring the Q&A as we go through the program. So, add any of your questions for Dr. Tessman or the panelists in there. Then you can also use the chat function to talk with others watching, fellow alumni and friends. Couple events coming up for our alumni. You can join President Testman for some alumni events in Lansing and Florida in March, and then in Chicago in April. We also have a couple of discounted ticket opportunities for NMU Alumni Days coming up at the Brewers and Tigers Spring Training Games, and then also at the Timber Rattlers for Yooper Night in May. So you can check out more information about those on our website, and we hope to see you there. I also just want to take a quick moment to mention Wildcats Connect, which is a platform for our alumni and students to ask and offer advice. It's a great way to help NMU students. It's a great way to stay connected to the university and get in touch with your fellow alumni. Again, you can find out more information about all of these. You can also follow us on social media and see all the great things that we're doing coming up and see some fellow alumni success stories as well. All right, please note that tonight's event is part of NMU's 125th anniversary celebration, which we've also done almost done a full year of, which has been a great year of celebration with everything and all things Northern. There's a few other 125th anniversary events this winter semester that you can catch, including a Dan Truckee presentation on jazz at NMU as part of the NMU Jazz Festival in March. And then we also have an event to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the award-winning theater production Haywire in April. You can find details about these at the website nmu.edu/125. At the website, you can also share your NMU memories, some of which I'm sure will surface through tonight's discussion as well. Before I turn things over to Dr. Tessman, I am excited to welcome our panelists this evening who all have deep ties to the university. To share just how deep their history runs, I just want to share a brief bio about each one of them, and then we'll dive into some questions. First, we have Dave Bonzel. Dave graduated from NMU in 1974 with a bachelor's degree in history and political science and was a member of the Dakota House, which he still organizes reunions for every other year. After graduation, Dave served as a resident director for 3 years before moving to the Center for Student Enrichment, where he spent nearly 35 years working with student organizations, student activities, Superior Edge, the Student Leader Fellowship Program, and more. He is now a partner with Simply Superior Consulting, assisting organizations and businesses to grow and become more productive. Welcome, Dave. And as a lifelong resident of Marquette, Carol Johnson completed her bachelor's degree in accounting in 1981. While in college, she was a 4-year letter winner in gymnastics and was awarded the Columbia Hanson Academic Scholarship her senior year. In 1989, she graduated with her MBA. As a strong believer in NMU's mission and efforts to meet students' academic and social needs, she serves as the Dean of the College of Business with pride, humility, and enthusiasm. Welcome, Carol.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. Glad to be here.
And Dr. Joe Lubig is a proud 2-time NMU alumnus, graduating in 1991 with a bachelor's degree in education and in 2000 with a master's of arts in education. His time at NMU prepared him to engage at-risk and middle school students for 13 years in the public school system. Strong mentors and connections to the NMU community and the broader education community gave him the confidence and support that he needed to be part of educator development and leadership at NMU for the past 23 years. Welcome, Joe. And Dr. Jess Thompson is an inaugural Assistant Vice President for Sustainability at NMU and the Director of the Sustainability Hub for Innovation and the Environment. She previously served as a professor teaching courses in communication, public relations, and sustainable business. She is nationally known for her research regarding the vitality and preservation of our nation's national parks. Jess graduated from NMU in 2001 with a bachelor's degree in speech communication. Welcome, Jess. And Dana Hinckley is a senior majoring in Spanish education. She is the president of ASNMU, where she worked with representatives to advocate for students. She works with other ASNMU representatives to enhance student involvement, improve campus resources, and make sure that student voices are heard in the university decision-making process. Welcome, Dana. And now I'm happy to welcome President Brock Tessman to get this conversation going. Remember to drop your questions in the Q&A. And welcome President Tessman and panelists.
All right. Well, thank you, Kylie. And, as these things go, typically we'll have a great conversation that runs right up to the end of our time. And so before we run out of time, I want to make sure to thank you for pulling together such a fantastic panel. I mean, first of all, it's kind of neat for me to just be the moderator in this setup and hear from people who know Northern best. But second of all, just really, I mean it. Thanks for finding another way for us to celebrate this fantastic 125th anniversary of Northern Michigan University. I don't really I can't think of a better way than to have people who understand the university from a student perspective, from various levels of staff and leadership all get together and talk a bit about Northern over the decades. So I will do my best to keep the conversation flowing. I think I'd like to start it off with like a bit of a lightning round. Usually they save the lightning round for the end, but I want to do a lightning round right off the bat. So kind of quick answers, and you can pick the way you want to answer this. So Dave, Joe, Carol, Dana, Jess, you can either answer this through your personal experience at Northern, or you can talk about something that was going on campus or in the community or nationally and globally while you were at Northern. So the question is really that. I mean, think about something that really stands out from your experience as a student at Northern. Again, it can be for you personally or something that was happening kind of on campus or in the community or nationally. And I'm gonna start, Dave, no offense, but I'm gonna start with our earliest graduate on this panel, but Dave Bonzall, somebody that I respect so much. Pick something out of thin air. I know you got a million stories, Dave, but what would you want to focus on? Oh, and you're on mute. Yep. You're still on. Yep.
Am I okay now?
You're good.
Okay. I'm going to talk just again very briefly because we've been told to be brief. Just the environment for student life at Northern when I was here. I heard stories when I checked in 1969 about the year before when they did room inspections every month. And if your room wasn't neat, you got something happened to you. I'm not sure what. But after that, things just changed so much. Uh, you know, the age of majority happened in 1972 when I was here, which made it 18, you were an adult in just about every way, shape, and form. And that affected so many things. Use of alcohol used to get suspended from school if you had empty beer cans in your room. And all of a sudden, you could drink beer in your room. You could drink beer in the TV room. You could have parties in the basement with kegs of beer. It was great fun, but I think some people had a little too much fun. Uh, also, visitation. Again, the year before I got here, it was like 4 hours on a Sunday afternoon that you could have somebody from the opposite sex in your room. And when my first year, it was 4 hours a day. And then all of a sudden, with the age of majority, it was 24 hours, anything goes, you could go into any hall. This was at a time when all halls were either male or female. There was no co-ed. And that was the next thing that happened. You started to have co-ed residence halls. And yeah, things just changed so fast in the environment. It was a pretty wild time, but really an exhilarating time to be a student at Northern.
Yeah, I can, thanks, Dave. I mean, that, I feel like that was a tip of the iceberg kind of response. You probably could have gotten some more details, but I understand the point you were making, and I can imagine that was a kind of transformative period at Northern for sure, for lots of reasons.
It
Hey, thanks for
it
sharing
was.
that.
I had to edit out quite a bit of stuff, Brock.
Oh, no, 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 no. I'm sure you didn't. I'm sure that's the whole story, I'm sure. But no, I appreciate appreciate that, Dave. Um, okay, again, we'll just kind of move quickly. We'll be able to return to some of these points. But Carol, I think you're up next. So talk a little bit about life as a gymnastics athlete, or anything else you want to talk about from your time at Northern when you were a student.
Well, I was going to talk about the fact that I mentioned, or Kylie mentioned in the bio, that I received an academic scholarship, which was really something that I was really proud of because I wasn't a 4.0. I will readily admit that. I was a 4-year athlete. I had a lot of responsibilities. I was also a bank teller. And I had a professor come in, I was waiting on him, and he said, hey, why don't you apply for a scholarship, an academic scholarship? And it was a Columbia Hanson scholarship, which I didn't know was Sam Cahotas's sister-in-law. And I won the scholarship because I was the only UP girl who worked at a bank. I mean, there was real specific criteria. And I was invited to the College of Business Scholarship Breakfast. And it was transformational for me because it was a professional setting. Here I was, this 21-year-old girl, and I got to meet Sam Cahotas, which oddly enough, I work in a building named after him today. And that scholarship breakfast is one of those histories and traditions we have at Northern that we continue to this day. And I'm so proud. I tell students that all the time, that I was sitting where you were sitting when I was a student, and it was really amazing for me. So that's my story.
Thanks, Carol. That is a great story. And I have had the honor of stopping by the scholarship breakfast a couple of times now, and you can tell it's a special occasion. I mean, it's a very important occasion for your faculty, for students, for staff in the college. But I didn't know your backstory with that breakfast, which now
Yeah,
makes it even kind of more meaningful for me to know that as dean, you're continuing to grow that event. So very cool. Thank you for sharing. That's great.
thanks.
Mr. Joe Lubig, you are up next in the sequence. And again, you know what? Follow the Dave Bonsall principle. Tip the iceberg stories.
Yeah, I just found my record and shredded it, so I'm
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
So, yeah. Ani, hello everybody. Joe Lubig. So, the thing that stands out for me is I was so nervous, right, to leave Livonia, Detroit area to come to school. And I got up here and I had a couple friends from high school were here and that was great, right? And my professors were so engaging and ed prep, like we got out in the schools. All that was awesome. But a seminal experience for me was being a student employee on campus in maintenance. And so I gained an aunt right away, Marilyn Burridge, and then I gained a bunch of uncles, Joe Charette, Gene Benvenu, Carl Kitta. Go down the line, and it was awesome because they took care of us, but they didn't do things for us. And my best example is going into education. It was at a time we had to sign up for pensions. So we had to make a pension choice as a college student, right? Like my future. And I, of course, signed up for the MIPSR's lowest pay out of my, lowest amount out of my check. And I remember going into the break room for lunch and they'd let you play smear and, we'd play euchre, of course, and everybody kick in 50 cents, whatever. And Joe said, let me see what you filled out. And he looked at it, he hands it over to Gene Benvenu, and Gene looks at it and he rips it up. Go get another one from Maryland. And I'm like, what? He goes, you're going to be a teacher and you signed up for the cheapest plan. This is how a pension works. This is what you're going to do. Like those men and women there took care of me, and they set me up for success in a lot of other ways. In the same way, Don Sibilski and I worked there. Don's an employee here at NMU. Okay, we're leaving you alone for 30 minutes. I want to see your homework done. I want to see the beginning of your essay. I mean, they took care of us. And I think that's really important. because the staff are such a critical component here, and we celebrate them. But I don't think we ever give them enough recognition in any profession we're in, what the staff are able to do, and that in the moment and group mentoring that I got while I was a student here. I'm telling you what, I wouldn't trade that for anything. Now I got 40 years in the profession now, and I would not be as well off as I could be to have space to think and breathe about my future post-retirement, whenever that happens, and for my own children, if those folks weren't taking care of me. That was life-changing for me. So.
Oh, what an awesome example. And I mean, just practically speaking, you can sort of understand how these small moments create, I mean, really lifetime impact. And, that speaks to a big part of what college is all about, and I know many people who are on this webinar will agree that, of course, you're at college for, the academic development, the technical and job skill development, and it's about getting you a good job and start on a good career. But so much of it is about that mentorship and, kind of the arms wrapping around you and saying, okay, maybe you want to consider this choice differently. And sometimes that's about money and pensions, and sometimes it's about things that are less tangible. But very good example, also a great example of how, sometimes we tend to think that faculty are the ones doing that, and they do so much of that at Northern, but can also be staff or peers that do it. So really good. Thanks, Joe. Okay, Jess Thompson.
I don't want to go after Joe.
Well, that you can either do that, or you can put Dana in an uncomfortable position of having to go after Joe. So are you student centered, or are you?
Yeah. Oh man, this is right out of the gate. We're gonna get ugly like this. Come on. I'd add coaches to that list, but I was thinking of a different answer. And when I was here, technology was changing in a way that I guess I didn't even imagine. Like from when I got to college, a computer was this thing the size of a mini fridge. It took up almost the entire back seat of my Dodge Omni. And then when I left, everyone had a laptop, and we had laptops on the beach. Like we took laptops everywhere. So I feel like the laptop program at Northern, and then just the technology change that happened between the late 90s and early 2000s was transformative. Suddenly, like one guy had a cell phone that was, again, the size of a toaster or some other kitchen appliance. And it was in his car, and it had to be plugged into the lighter with like the super curly cord. But by the early 2000s, people had like mobile phones that you could carry around, sometimes with the battery pack. But it was just a moment of technological, and I think we experienced this, we've continued to stay on this exponential growth and change in technology. But for me, and it's weird that I associate this with Northern, like Northern is the place where computers went from fridges to pocket size. It was just what was happening when I got here.
That is a good reminder. You and I may or may not be around the same time frame, and so I certainly remember that myself. It's interesting. It's kind of a neat segue to Dana. I mean, we hear a lot about the rate of change right now. Now, it feels like it's a little less on the hardware side. And maybe it's a little bit more about sort of the way in which we're using technology and the way that information sort of permeates the classroom and in our social lives. But yeah, super interesting, Jess. Yeah. Okay. Well, Dana, you are currently a student. And so, I mean, what is happening right now on campus? I mean, transport yourself to 15, 20 years down the road. What is it that you think you'll be talking about in some webinar like this about what was going on at Northern in the year 2025?
Well, I feel like I'm the perfect person to ask. I was going to share about my time when I was running for ASNMU president, and what I did is I went to every single event that I could possibly fit into my calendar. So I had my Google Calendar laid out, it's all color coded and everything, and I would go and scroll through the hub and I would look to see what event I could go to. And if my schedule was free, it would be added in there. So I went to all kinds of random events and I got a little taste of everything that I could possibly experience at Northern. And so I felt like I learned so much through that experience. I went to a bunch of like student organization events. Like I went to Black Student Union. I went to NASA, the Native American Student Association. I went to a zero waste event. Carol, I think you were there with me, and we were sorting trash. And yeah, that was a great event. I loved that. Jess, I'm sure you were part of that as well. Yeah. And I even went to like a yo-yo club at one point. And then one time I stayed up until like 1:30 in the morning drawing chalk with a bunch of random people on the quad, and they were all helping me and they were telling me what their interests were as students at NMU. And so it was really awesome to just kind of connect with all of these students on campus in such unique ways.
Well, that Dana, so I mean, so good to hear about your priority when you were deciding to run for office, which was to really get out and understand the campus as best you could. And I know that's difficult given the schedule that you juggle. I think it's also just good evidence that, you know, things are changing really quickly today at Northern. They were changing quickly in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And I don't know, if I think back on the whole purpose of this panel, 125 years celebration, it's amazing that this institution has been so rock solid, even with all of the change that's happening. And, you know, I think change continues to accelerate in all aspects of life right now. And as I see all of our alumni and other folks joining, just, you know, want to really instill confidence in anyone who's thinking about the future of Northern. You should hear these stories, think about our past, and realize that we've got our compass for the future. And we'll of course adjust and adapt along the way. And I'm sure there'll be some major technological revolution that you know, we're talking about in 15, 20 years time, but Northern will still be the same. It's about mentoring, it's about education, it's about personal development as much as it is about professional development. It's part of what makes Northern so special. Uh, okay. So that was good lightning round. It's hard to do lightning round with a question like that because everyone wants to develop their stories. Now I've got some things that are a little bit more tailored for folks based on your particular experiences at Northern. And I've got a couple of questions in front of me. I'm well prepared. Kylie did a great job. But I think I'm going to kind of pick one question per panelist, and then we'll see how that goes. And maybe we'll work through a second round. The first one again is going to be for you, Dave, and it's about the Student Leader Fellowship Program, the SLFP. And I think we talk all about rapid change, and in the midst of all that, it's so hard to build something, especially something that's student oriented, that stands the test of time. And I think the SLFP is what, 34 years?
45.
What, how, 45 years?
35.
35. I was going to say 35 years. That makes sense. So, I mean, what is it about the way that the SLFP was started, or, you know, what is it about its connection to students? Tell us a little bit about the program and why it has just continued to develop and retain its unique identity for 3.5 decades.
Okay, happy to do that. There were several of us on campus at one time, just formed an informal committee. We thought it would be really beneficial for students to have some introduction to leadership training. And we started a thing called 4 phases. And part was a class, believe it or not. Some were workshops, some were, you know, just like an overnight experience from the residence halls. And the thing that was really tough with that is some students would jump in on the 3rd phase and others the 2nd, and then they'd skip one and go to the 4th. And it made it really hard to build on other experiences. So we kind of sat down and said, if we could do the ideal program, what would it be? And we kind of fit in all the, all the components of the student leader fellowship program, and each one built on the others. It starts with a fall retreat, and then there's a leadership class. At the same time, students have a mentor, a community leader who serves as a mentor. I believe we've had over 1,000 people from the community do that now, many more than once. And then, there still were skill builder workshops that people have to take 15 over the course of 2 years. And a big concluding part, of course, is the second year when they do a community service internship, where our students have been at several hundred locations, and they have done, hundreds of thousands of hours of community-based leadership. So I think that building on things like that was key. And the other thing was students form teamship. They form teams, and that's built around their block color. When we first started, we thought it'd be really neat for our students to have sweatshirts. So we bought them these red block sweatshirts, and we just assumed, well, that's our color. They're always going to be red. And the students came in the second year and said, we want nothing to do with red. How about if we did blue? And so they were the blue blocks. And so right now we're getting really challenged, I think, by what colors are coming up.
They're not even colors now, Dave. They're concepts. It feels like they're concepts.
Exactly. Well, they're anything you can think of, but then it has to be transformed into a color on their sweatshirt. But anyway, students always refer to that as their team. When they come back 10, 15, 20 years later, several might come into town and say, oh, do you remember us? We were the purple blocks. And they'll talk about others that were in their cohort. So, that program's had challenges over the years. It took way back when there were some real budget challenges, and we just kind of pieced things together to keep it going. And I think it's on a little more solid footing now. But I always say that what's really kept this program going is just the type of students we have at Northern. They're genuine, they're sincere, they want to maximize their college experience. And the other thing they do is they don't want to let down the group coming after them. They feel like we have to keep this program in good shape, so we pass it along to the others. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, over the years, there's been really dedicated staff that have worked with this program and have made it what it is. And we're just, it's such a part of Northern. We're so proud of it. All of us, I think all of us are.
Thanks, Dave. And I should have known that you wouldn't give yourself enough credit for the development of the SLFP. I left the window open for you to do it, but I know you better than that. And I want to thank you and others, of course. It's in very good hands now as well. But I really want to thank you for the work you did to get that up and running, and a little bit of bootstrapping, a lot of reliance on the students themselves. I would count the part of the fall retreat when last year's block gives the coming year's block the sweatshirts as
Yes.
one of the most important things that I think I've witnessed as president at Northern. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's because the students are taking care of those who come after them. And I think the SLFP really does embody Northern in so many ways. Thank you again.
It's been my pleasure over the years, and I still enjoy being associated with it in some degree.
And we'll just wonder what the next color is, the color concept.
Well, it challenges their creativity, and that's a good first lesson, I guess.
It does. Well, Carol, I mean, the reality is that almost everyone on this call, except for me, well, and I guess Dana, has seen Northern from sort of different perspectives. But I do think, you have a really special perspective to share as a student athlete, as a student, as a multiple degree earner, faculty, and now as a dean. You've been able to see Northern from all of these different angles, and you've also understood Northern's mission. And I don't really mean the mission statement and all of its detail, although that's important too, but really the mission of Northern and really why we exist as an organization. I wonder if you could share a little bit about how that mission may have evolved over the years? I mean, if at all, or if it stayed exactly the same to you, I think that would be interesting too. But talk to me about how you feel Northern's mission and whether it's changed depending on the role that you've occupied at Northern.
Wow, that's a tough question. I think that Northern's role and its commitment to the region has remained unbelievably strong. I love meeting with students and their parents for campus visits, and I do a ton of them. I do a ton of them for athletics because I am a big athletic supporter. Um, as Marquette goes, Northern goes, and vice versa. I think that the relationship is so strong um, between the community, not just Marquette, I should say the whole region, um, community, opportunity, environment, all of those things are interwoven between this area and NMU. I think that we as a community, and I've lived here my whole life, welcome the students. I mean, flags are running up and down Third Street, welcoming students back to campus, and people look forward to the town kind of stepping up a bit and having a bit more energy when the students are back in town. Um, and there's something to be said for the energy of young people. And now I'm sounding old, but I do believe that we can take a lot away from those experiences of interacting with students. And it's really, I believe, vital to our community. I think the recreation that happens in our area, we share the paths, the trails with the students. It's just such a wonderful relationship, and there's no town and gown issue ever. NMU is student-centered. I think Marquette area is student-centered. And just use the word transformational. I think that there are transformational experiences that happen to students and their families when they come to visit because we make them feel welcome. So I'm really proud of that. And I think it's really strong. I think our core values are well-founded, and I think we're really committed to them. I'm not sure that I'm glad I'm afraid I had a Joe because he'll have a much better answer, I'm sure.
I, Terrific sentiments, Carol. I agree wholeheartedly. And I think for Northern, that core mission really is providing transformational opportunity for students and transformational impact for the UP. I get a chance. Kylie listed the alumni events coming up, and I get a chance to do a lot of those. Almost without exception, if I'm at one of those events, someone will walk up to me afterwards and they'll say, "Hey, I just want you to know, first of all, you didn't have anything to do with this good story, so don't take it personally. But second of all, I wasn't hotshot college material. I really either I dropped out of college, or I really never thought I was going to go to college. I was coming back from maybe we had a lot of military veterans coming back and thinking about what they want to do next. But they say all Northern did is open that door for me, and I got to Northern, and it wasn't always smooth, but I succeeded there, and that was the moment for me. That was the kind of watershed moment. And those people are all doing different things now, but they look back on that transformational opportunity really fondly. And so, Carol, I mean, a lot of what you said really just kind of comes back to that mission. It's like the right to try, but also the opportunity to succeed. Those two things together, I think they'll probably always be part of Northern's DNA, no matter what size our mobile phones are or how many rocket ship.
And I'd like to add too, we also support people. And so they're not doing it alone. And like Joe said, there's staff people. Everybody seems to just really care. It's that, you hear the Midwestern values, but it's really true. There is a sense of caring that you may not see other places. And people aren't afraid to help.
That's right. That's right. Well, thanks, Carol, for sharing that. And I'm sure Joe will have a good story or two in response to this next question. But there's a couple there. One of them, I feel like you already shared a story about some staff wrapping their arms around you, Joe, and kind of pointing you in the right direction. And I know you have a lot more of those stories. Obviously, you share whatever you like about that if you want. But my question is actually more about Livonia. You know, you mentioned you decided to come up to Northern from Livonia. We ask students all the time, why did you choose Northern? What made you come up north? So I don't think that I've ever heard that from you. I'm really curious. Maybe people are curious. What made you choose Northern coming from Metro Detroit?
So, okay. So thanks for asking that. So I'm a first generation college graduate and first generation US citizen. And so I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud that my family chose to emigrate from Malta right off the boot of Italy after World War II. I'm proud that they lived in, Old Court Town and, Tiger Stadium. I'm proud that they sent me to 8 years of Catholic school, and I'm proud I got to do 4 years, St. Michael's, go Gales, and then Livonia Churchill, right? So Chargers. Uh, and I remember being a junior in high school and sitting on a little stoop. Grandpa Mike, uh, Nunu Mike was in a old beat up white leather chair, and the guy had a grip, man. Like he was, 5'6" and just iron grip. And said, "So what do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I want to be a teacher." And he like grabbed my knee and squeezed. He's like, "You want to be a teacher? Like, we came to this country to make money, and we came to this country for a better future." And he was challenging me, right? Like he wanted me to justify why I wanted to be a teacher. And I told him, and he let go and he said, "Those are all the right reasons. Go be a teacher." And so I thought I was going to do community college, Schoolcraft Community College, right in my backyard. I mean, just great programs. And man, Brock, I signed up for college and I paid for it. I couldn't tell you what the inside of Schoolcraft Community College looks like, but man, I was having a great time in Livonia. Drag racing. My buddy had a old Mustang, 84 Mustang with an old Roush Racing engine in it off the dyno. We were blocking off the roads, Schoolcraft, making a lot of money drag racing, making a lot of money painting warehouses for McLaren Racing, Roush Racing, cutting lawns. I was working 40 hours a week at a restaurant, Station 885 in Plymouth. I was having a blast. And my dad set me down and he said, "Look, man, you can live here and come back. You can do whatever you want, but you need to leave. You need to leave now." And so my buddy Don was going to school up here in teacher education, and I just happened to call him, and he said, "Lubes, come on up here. Like, it's not high school, but your professors know you like you're in high school. They will call you by name, walking around town, walking around campus. The person listed on your schedule is the person who teaches your courses." And so I sold my restored Camaro that my cousin Dwayne restored for me, and I got to pick all the sheet metal out of the GM warehouse with my dad. I sold that, and that paid for a year of college. Came home one summer, worked for Mr. Weiss for Pepsi, delivering Pepsi to Kroger and Meijer and all those big stores, 60, 70 hours a week. And then I got to stay up here after the summer of 88 on. And the community they kind of wrapped their arms around me. But I mean, Brock, I had a great education, Catholic school, and the amazing teachers I had there and at high school, but I needed to leave. And this was as far away as I could go to be a teacher. And then people started telling me about the program. And I came up here and it just all happened to be true. So, in 125 years now, we're helping people learn how to teach like a wildcat. That's pretty awesome. And my full circle moment, Brock, was when I was the director of field experiences in my second year at NMU. I placed 2 student teachers at Livonia Churchill, and with one teacher that I actually had in high school. And so like it all got to come around. And for me, it's the social contract. It's this unwritten agreement. And I like to talk to my 2 kids who go here. It's an agreement or contract of action. You can say whatever you want, but watch what people do and reflect on what you do every day. And this contract of action, I think, is what really made me want to stay after my first semester here, because it's a far way away, right? That was 55 miles per hour in those days. That was an 8-hour drive. But that contract of action is what kept me here. And I'd like to think that's what we're giving back to our students.
Well, I've only worked at Northern for a couple of years, Joe, but I think that however many years later it's been, I can do some math, but that I've seen you work that way at Northern too, through the contract of action. And so I appreciate that about you. It's very evident. And I think that is why, if you go anywhere in the UP, but I'll tell you, even if I'm downstate, people know and respect you, because I think that they see that in your work.
It's a good team. Brock, we just went through accreditation, right? And I used we do this, we do that. And our site team got that it's not we in Whitman Hall. It's we UP wide. We don't do anything without each other, right? And so thanks for saying that. It's pretty awesome space to be in. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. And last thing about the story you shared is just how much of a risk a lot of our students take in coming to us. I mean, I felt that was a big, bold decision, and to leave behind something that was, I won't even say it was just comfortable. It was like exciting and comfortable at the same time. That's what you were in, but maybe it wouldn't have been that way forever, and so you took this big risk to step out of that lane. And a lot of our students do that. Right. And so I think, that's part of the reason we do have that responsibility to those students, because they're taking a chance on us and we need to put ourselves out there for them.
Right. So how interesting, right? Like no matter how old you are, if you're a spouse, son or a daughter, cousin, it doesn't matter. That family is sending at any age level, pre-kindergarten through graduate school, the most precious thing they have in their lives.
Yep.
Every day they're trusting us with that. And that's an awesome responsibility. Yeah. All right, I'll be quiet now. Sorry.
No, that's a bigger, I'm just saying that makes you sit up straight. It's a big responsibility. Huh. And that will not change. That will not change. I think everyone, speaking here, and I think, I believe folks who've taken the time to join the webinar would know that about Northern. Other things will change, of course, over time. And Jess, I'm going to kind of revisit your earlier comments about technology, and I'm going to ask you to play futurist. Okay. So if I did force you to talk about what you think might change at Northern, say, I don't know, it's 2025. Let's go 2050. Put your creative hat on, which you've got many creative hats. What do you think? Is it going to be on the technology side? Is it going to be programs that are offered? Is it going to be the way students take classes, where they come from? If you didn't know, I'm buying you a little time right now to think a bit.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to say something that I can latch on to.
I'm not going to do that. No, you're on the spot.
Whew. I am going to also continue to buy myself some time and say, I hope there's some things that don't change. Just building off of Joe's comment, the people and the can-do attitude and the care ethic that Carol mentioned earlier, it's such a part of this place that it doesn't actually matter what it looks like, and whether we have a double dome or another field house. Yeah, don't build two domes, because it might look
dome inside a dome, probably not the best.
But there, I want to see Wildcat Way, like 2050. I want to be pedaling through. I'll probably still be working here. I don't know if I'll be retired yet. I didn't get the pension package that Joe's generation got, so I'll probably I won't quite be pedaling out to the lake for sunset, but I'll be on campus. And I think the things that we hold dear, going back to that core values question, if we continue to prioritize those, our environment, well-being, community, whatever physical changes that happen, whether we have solar on the roof of every building or gray water collection, or maybe we've gotten rid of all the green grass and we're growing food, and we have like this wonderful you pick, um,
Love it.
from broccoli and tomatoes. And with climate change, we're going to be able to grow a lot of good stuff up here. So, and our growing season is getting longer by the minute. So I think there are, lots of things that could change the look of the place, but the feel, I hope, in my heart is the same. And it's that people know this is a place where you're trusted and respected. This is a place where you grow, and this is a place where you can try new things and you can fail miserably and get up smiling. And I know for Northern, that it was that place for me, like a walk-on athlete, literally the worst one on the team, that ended up with a scholarship, got to be captain. Like, only at Northern can these magical things happen, because you've got a super supportive environment that pushes you to stretch and grow. So yeah, we can take down some energy hog buildings. That would be fine. We can grow more maple and nut and fruit trees. That would be lovely. But I think in the end, we're going to be this.
A lot of things will stay the same.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love how you talk about failing miserably and getting picked back up. And, we have lots of orientations, or when we have big recruiting events, I always try to leave that as one of my last comments, which is that, this place will absolutely elevate students to new heights, and we celebrate that and their achievements. I mean, kind of culminating in maybe scholarship offers or job placements or grad school, and certainly commencement. But that's not the thing that makes Northern so special. It's about what happens on the other side of the wave, right? I mean, and we're all human beings. And so you have those times where just things are not coming together in the right way. And it could be an emergency, or it could be kind of a slow grind that's bringing you down. And I think Northern has got that ability. If you're kind of, if you're failing, things aren't out working, to get you back going in the right direction again. And, you know, little secret, maybe it's actually not a secret because I'm sure people realize this by now. I think that's true for our administrative leaders and our faculty and our staff too. Like, if you work at Northern, we have a community, so you still are kind of allowed that. And I think that does make us a braver place, and it allows us to get better over time. And it's something that I really value about Northern. You had a tough one, Jess. Sorry for putting you on the spot there. Yeah. Okay, Dana, if you this is also a tough one. If you had to describe kind of Northern's personality, if you were describing Northern as kind of a thing, doesn't have to be a person, but maybe if you're describing Northern as a person, how would you describe Northern? I mean, what makes Northern special today in its current version?
I actually love this question. I love the creativity to it, but I would say that we're a very celebratory school. We're very interwoven, interconnected, not even just with different aspects of NMU and the campus, but also with the community. And I absolutely love that. As in student government, we'll go to other schools and we'll talk to them, and I'm shocked to learn that their school isn't as integrated in their community as Northern is. I thought that was like a standard, and it's not. And NMU is so connected with the community, and I absolutely love that about our school. And I love how inclusive we are. Students really notice that. Students really, really care about that. Students care about sustainability. I would describe the personality of our school as very granola. I don't know if you know what that means, but it's like
I take offense at the fact that you don't think I know what granola means. I
yeah.
know what granola
Yeah,
means.
we're a
Yeah,
very
thank you.
granola school. And I think that perfectly describes the people here, what our values are and what people truly care about and what they want to see from Northern in the future as well.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you. Still reeling from your age dating comment there. But I guess since Northern is nothing if not student centered, so you get a follow up because you're the student responded. Um, and of course, just like it's true that not every student at Northern is granola, right? I mean, there's a variety of sort of values and energies at Northern. There are also a variety of like concerns. But for alumni who are clocking in and thinking about Northern today, or really for any of us as well, might be curious. I mean, it's 2025. What do you think you would say are sort of at the top of the list in terms of, let's just say, things on students' minds right now? And that could obviously be a longer conversation, but I'm wondering if that's something you'd feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, right now I would say that mental health is a huge, huge thing on students' minds. The Well-Being Center has, and like well-being as a whole, I guess, has been doing great things with students, and has been like putting on events, talking about mental health and really pushing that out to students. And students are noticing, and I think that's super important, especially with like lots of like changes in like the political climate, and just like changes in the seasons, like addressing like issues that come up when it's like cold outside, and students are adjusting to that, especially with a lot of like out of state students or international students that are having some trouble on campus, and really talking about that, because I think mental health has been something that's like becoming destigmatized, and we're doing a great job at taking on that responsibility and growing with the rest of society, and I think that's super important. So mental health for sure. I mean, I could talk about this forever, but I would say that's like one of the main
Yeah.
things.
Well, that makes total sense to me, and I wouldn't have remembered it, but you jogged my thinking on this. If I were a panelist and someone said, what changed most about kind of campus life from when I was in college to today, I would list up there. I don't know whether it would be at the top, but in my top batch of things would be the way that students are open and supportive with respect to like emotional and mental well-being. I just say it. I mean, when I was in college, for whatever reason, it was like it's the last thing that you would talk about, and it was like, and it made things so much worse because you're just like trapped on your own and you think you're the only person working through hard times and that there's something wrong with you. It was really, I think, a different environment. And I think across the country, but particularly at Northern, it feels like there is an openness about that conversation. And it doesn't mean that like you feel like you need to have emotional or mental health challenges. It's not like people produce those, but I think if you have things you're working on, you can lean on others for support. And sometimes that means talking to them about what you're working through. So I'm glad you focused on that. We could talk forever, Kylie, but you
Yes.
popped back up on video, which means that I'm about to get the hook. And so
Not quite. We
let,
still
let,
have a few more minutes. I don't know
let's
if you
say
all are
or we
getting a
may not
chance
do.
to check out the chat too, but there's some great conversations happening. Some alums connecting who haven't been connected in a while. We have Margaret joining us from Finland. So I have people from all over. So thank you everybody for joining and thanks for sharing your stories. Keep doing that in the chat because they're super fun to read. We had a couple questions that also came in when people registered for this event. So I want to try to touch on a couple if we can, and then maybe wrap things up with a fun one or something. So Lois, thanks for joining us. She asked about a potential book or something for with pictures and stories for the 125th, and just wanted to address that quick that while we did think about doing that for the 125th, we decided to hold that off until the 150th or something close to that. In part because retired faculty members Diane Kordich and Russ Minyagi, who are also on this chat tonight, are working on an updated version of A Sense of Time, the Encyclopedia of Northern Michigan University, which for those of you who don't know, first made its debut for the 100th anniversary in 1999. So when that's ready, that will also be available. We'll, of course, share that. So hopefully that will be something that all alumni can get their hands on at some point. Brock, there's a next question here, and this might be just a fun one as we're nearing the end. Millicent from Waco, Texas would like to know, how was Marquette chosen to be the location of NMU?
Yeah. Oh, that is a good question. All the way from Waco. Okay. And we could ask how Waco was chosen. I think is it Baylor in Waco, Texas? I think that's right. But a story for another time on your end, Millicent. So I know this one. I know this one. I think well-told story, but especially in our 125th anniversary, thinking back to the roots of Northern State Normal School. It's a Joe Lubig answer, if anything. Really, what happened is that, you had an influx of immigrants coming to the UP, mining, timber. The population was really exploding. And so with that population, we needed teachers. And so a bunch of business leaders, it was kind of like one of the first examples in recent times of, business and industry leaders getting together with community leaders, getting together with leaders down in Lansing. Governor Pingree, I think it was a Governor Pingree, signed an act declaring that Northern State Normal School would come into being in order to train teachers. And I think that was in September of 1899. It is our 125th anniversary. We're bleeding a little bit into 126, but we're in our third century of history at Northern, and love the fact that one of our most vibrant moments is still our Teach Like a Wildcat graduation ceremony, hearkening all the way back to our roots, but showing that mission is still very much alive in the present.
I'll jump in with another question that came in during the registrations. This is about residence halls. So anybody feel free to hop in and share your answer. How did living on campus impact your personal development and civic engagement in your community post-graduation? Any fun stories anybody wants to share?
Well, I guess I could start with that. I think when I got here, I always equated it to, it was the Wild West. We had people like Bob Moss and Carl Holm was not too long after that, and students, Norm Hefke, Karen Reese, people who just, it was pretty much try anything you want to try. Residence halls, when I got a year or two before I got here, there was no house identity or anything of that sort. And all of a sudden it was, houses forming and competing against each other. And it was just it was a great time to be a student here. And in addition to what was happening with us inside doing that, it was, it was the late 60s, early 70s. Two huge issues were the civil rights movement and the Vietnam War. And that just took hold in the halls. It was, you couldn't sit in the TV room and say, I don't have an opinion on the Vietnam War. People were so intense on it that they pretty much forced you to have an issue. And there were protests on campus all over the place, including Northern. There were several hundred students that would gather on the lawn once a month for War Moratorium Day. And when Kent State happened, they sat in the whole second floor of what's now the Northern Center. And the president's office was there, and he came out and stood on the rock on the lawn, and where all the protests usually were every month. And he canceled classes for a day, like many other schools were doing as a day of remembrance. So it all fit into the residence halls because we all had to live there basically all 4 years. You had to be 23 or a veteran or married to be off campus, and most of us were none of those. And it was, I don't know, it was just a great time to be living in the halls.
And Dave, you still get your Dakota House uh, people together every 2 years, do you do it? Is that right?
We used to do it just every several when the spirit moved us, but probably about 14, 15 years ago, we decided we were getting kind of long in the tooth. And we realized we were going to start losing some people here and there. So we thought every 2 years was probably a better way to do it. So we're getting together again this August, and we're hoping you'll join us again, Brock, and give us a campus update. Uh, we usually get about 70 people back, about 40 to 50 guys and spouses and significant others. And we tell a lot of the same old stories. They don't get old. They get, if anything, they get embellished. So they're a little bit different every year.
Yeah.
And I'm Dave's neighbor, and let me tell you, that weekend they're having a good time.
Yeah, UP 200's nothing, right? That's the real party of the year. No, Dave, it's nothing but trouble when that group gets together in the very best way. I mean, it is. I've learned so much just in the couple of interactions I had, and I'm so glad you do that. Looking forward to this coming year, that's for sure. Kylie, are we about ready to wrap up? Because I do want to let people know, first of all, that I just had a chance to scroll through the chat. I mean, it's just amazing. So good to see people reconnecting and chiming in there. Thank you so much to everyone for taking the time to join us. Kylie, thanks again for pulling us together like this. And y'all should know, on top of these amazing stories, and that is really what Northern's all about. Things are going really well on campus, all the way from enrollment and retention to the stability of the budget. We've got new buildings going up, new lab space. The library renovation is almost done. We've got more student housing that we're building because we're packed to the gills. And really, this past year has been a chance to celebrate so much because of the 120th anniversary. So I look to continue reporting good news to y'all. Kylie, I think, is going to take us home, but I just wanted an opportunity again to express my appreciation for everything that all of you do in order to make Northern Michigan University such a special place. Thanks.
Yeah, I will echo that. Thank you all for joining us. This was great. Also, perhaps maybe we need a part two because I feel like there was a lot we didn't get to. So maybe we'll have to come back together in the fall and just keep it going. So I appreciate all of you being here. Thank you, Brock, for being here as well. And everybody for tuning in and for sharing your stories. It was a lot of fun to read that too. Just a note, I will be choosing 5 attendees to win 125th t-shirt. So keep an eye on your email tomorrow and I'll get those sent out to you. Stay connected to us. Come to these alumni events in the area. We're doing more events now than ever. So please keep posted on everything on our social media and our website and make sure you get our emails so you can connect with us either in person or virtually. We'll also be sending out a short survey after this, so keep an eye on your email as well. This has been recorded, so you'll also get that so you can share it with any alums who weren't able to join in, or if you just want to watch it again because you had so much fun. So thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of your evening. And as always, it's a great day to be a Wildcat.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Kylie.